morning. FIFA and Asian Football Confederation were never notified trying to move games to Mexico. So they would not play in the United States. I guess they would play solely in Mexico. Logistically, I don't know how that makes any sense. I'm not exactly certain how they would plan to approach that, being that you have 3 different countries that are hosting this thing. I don't know how you could play exclusively in one country. Obviously, on the other side of the coin, the women's team right now, they were granted asylum in Australia. So they've actually been training outside of the country. The women's team isn't in Iran right now. But again, despite the technicality, someone has to try to explain to me how logistically this is going to work for this country. Because if there's a game that you get to, or let's just say you do well enough to somehow put yourself in a position to where you have to play a game in the United States, do they have to rearrange everything around Iran? How does that change the way that this tournament is played, or that, where they have to play their games? Logistically speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I still stand by what I said earlier, Ryan, when we first talked about this, which I think that the security issues are still very much alive and well for Iran coming over to this side of the world. And I don't know how any of this changes any of that. Now, on the other side of the coin, I did say I wanted to see the players compete and have the opportunity to compete, obviously, because it's the World Cup and they deserve that chance. They deserve that opportunity. But how does FIFA plan to create an environment in which Iran can play their game solely outside of the United States? Can they guarantee that they can play this tournament without having to cross the border? Because if that happens, then okay, maybe there isn't as much room for concern as there once was. But with everything that's going on in the world right now, and again, this is why these topics are so hard to talk about, because it's how do you address a topic like this without diving into politics? I don't know. And that's why it's so tricky to tiptoe around sometimes. Because, yeah, we can talk about how we're sad for the players, but obviously it goes a lot deeper than that. I would just have to see FIFA's plan for how they would rearrange and shift everything around to ensure that this not only would go smoothly, but that it wouldn't throw off the rest of the tournament. And Ryan, to be honest with you, I don't know how they would plan to do that.
Well, they were planning on playing all their games on the west side of the country anyway, like California and all that stuff. So, I mean, if that's where you're planning to play, I think their group is like Belgium. I know they're in that. So, I don't know who's all in their group, but I think that when you look at it, they were supposed to play all their games in California. I don't know what cities are on the west. I don't know what cities on Mexico on the west side of the country. Well, I don't even know if you can really play games on the west side of the country in Mexico, to be honest with you. So you'd have to play on like the eastern side. But then I also thought, if you playing in from Canada in Mexico, I mean, you obviously would have to go over, the United States. I don't know if you were to like do a detour and like fly around the Pacific Ocean there and just kind of go into Vancouver that way, kind of go on the outside there, but I think you can guarantee it. You just got to make sure that it's within like the other teams in the group. They either have to be the city's got to be pretty close, and I know that that Iran was supposed to play, I think California and Washington, so the west side of the country. So I think then you can have Vancouver. I know that's the west side of Canada. So I mean if you're going to play in Washington, maybe one of the teams in the group that was supposed to play, in Washington against you, maybe they play in Vancouver. I know that's on the western side of the country of Canada. I mean, I understand why. Well, to be honest, the players have never made a decision on this thing. I was going to say, well, the players have a right to, like, say they don't want to play with what's happened, but at the same time, the players haven't said anything at all. And the only thing that we've heard about all of this is I think maybe Iran, their soccer federation, is trying to get an upper hand on World Cup and kind of hold some leverage. And I get it. They don't want to play in the United States. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't want to play in the United States either. I wouldn't want to play in a country that was bombing us.
That you're actively at war with. Yes.
So is that
that you're actively at war with? No, that's what I was going to say. It's like it's unprecedented in that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. But at the same time, no one's been notified of anything. And I think the whole move of, what we talked about last week, because we talked about it, wow, Iran is withdrawn from the World Cup, but then it comes out a couple days later and the Asian Football Confederation and FIFA's like, we don't know about that. We don't know about this. We've never been notified. So to me, it just seems like Iran is trying to, they still want to be in the World Cup. I mean, who wouldn't? If you qualify for it, at least. I mean, happens every 4 years. I think they want to be in the World Cup, but they just don't want to play their games in the United States, and that's where this whole we're going to withdraw, type of thing happens. Like I still think Iran plays. To be honest with you, I think
they want one guarantee, and that's we're not gonna have to cross the border and play in the U.S. And that's
I still think they play. I still think they end up in the World Cup based on this, because you can't come out and say that you're not gonna play and then not notify the entire world or notify the important federations, because if they're not playing, FIFA's got to be like, all right, well, we got to fill a team potentially, or maybe we got to have certain rules for this current group in the World Cup. And I don't know, I got to search up what that group is, but it's just like there's certain steps that have to happen. You can't just say, well, they're doing this and we're just leaving. Like, certain people have to have, and certain groups have to know. So Belgium, Egypt, and New Zealand. Well, what are you going to do then? You're going to have them play 3 games, like each play 2 games instead of a third game? Like, that doesn't make much sense. So, but then you have to bring in the highest ranked non-qualified Asian team. Like, that's got to happen. Or maybe FIFA's like, well, the highest ranked team from Asia can't be in because they suck so bad. Maybe we bring in another team from a different region. So, like, none of this makes sense. And if you're Iran, I understand it, but at the same time, you probably got to talk to the players, because the players are the ones that are playing. It's not the people, the head of the federations. I mean, they're not the ones putting their bodies on the line. They're not the ones that are going across the pond to come play. They're not doing that. They're probably just chilling at home. So talk to the players. If the players were to come out and say, well, yeah, we still want to play despite everything that's going on, we still want to play, then no one should have an opinion then at that point, because the players are the ones playing. You're not in their shoes. So you can't say anything. But if the players then came out and said, yeah, no, we don't feel comfortable playing with everything going on, we just want to chill at home with our families or our loved ones, whatever it is, then that's fine too, because they're the player. They're the players. They get a say. But you can't say you're withdrawing from a World Cup and not tell anybody.
That leads to the question of, okay, well, then where did the leak come from? Who leaked that information?
Well, it was just the youth, like the guy head of sports or something in Iran. That guy just said it. And I'm telling you, I just think it's a leverage move for them. I think they just want to tell everyone that, hey, everything that's going on, we don't want to play. FIFA, all of a sudden, red alert goes to FIFA. Well, we got a team to fill. How do we fill it the right way? And or they just we want to play our game strictly in Mexico and Canada. That's fine too, but that's from a logistical standpoint. That's a living hell.
Yeah. Oh, of course it is. Let me try to say what I would feel if I was in a player's position, which I'm just trying to picture what they're thinking here. Number one, of course I want to play. Like, there's no question in anybody's mind that you want to play, right? It's not a given that you make the World Cup. Now, Iran has had successful sides for a long time. They
qualified for the
United States in the World Cup. Yeah, exactly. So they've been in it before, but it's not a guarantee. It's once every 4 years. I mean, this is every footballer's dream in the world since, literally they started playing the game, since they understood what the game was and how to play the game. Of course they're going to want to play, right? But at no point would I ever be comfortable crossing the border to go into the U.S. And understandably so. Like, I didn't grow up in that culture. I wasn't born into that. Obviously, we're on the opposite side of the world, so I'm trying to empathize with them here. I don't really understand where their mind is, but the last thing I would want to do is to cross into the United States. And so I think this is just, I don't know why Iran went about it the way that they did? Yeah, probably just to put pressure on FIFA. But I also don't understand why you couldn't just go to FIFA and go, hey, listen, if you don't move our games completely out of the United States, we're not doing this thing. Like, I think that's really all it takes, because I think FIFA understands, at least, and if they don't understand, they're probably the most tone deaf organization in the history of the world. I mean, we've already talked about how they're incompetent in other ways, but if they don't understand that basic fact, then we got more problems when it comes to FIFA. Then they're just straight up not paying attention. It just means the fat cats are getting fatter and not really really locked into what they need to be doing and paying attention. But the biggest part about this all, Ryan, is that what is going on right now is unprecedented. That's why it's tough to really kind of put your finger on like what specifically should be done. Because I was even looking back, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, and if there is something out there that I missed in my quick research here, you can help me out. But I don't remember another time that two countries were actively at war, and not like a Cold War, but like a war. And one of them was going to play in the other country. Like, it would be one thing if the Soviet Union and the US were actually like launching missiles at each other and like troops on the ground and they played in the Olympics. That would be a little bit different. It was a Cold War. It was more spying and espionage. That's not what this is right now. It's the direct opposite of what this conflict is with the US and Iran. It's actually it's eerily similar. It's the same story with just a different face on it from what we saw in the early 2000s. I'm not going deeper into that comment. I don't care to. I'm just saying that's what makes this whole situation so difficult.
There was one US Iran back in 1998. They played each other, and Iran gave flowers to the USA team in the 1998 World Cup. This was a gesture.
Were they directly at war at 98?
Despite political tensions between two nations
Political
at the
tensions.
time.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, there was that. I don't
it's
think
tensions though. They weren't. I don't think they were at war. Though.
I mean, you can go back from. I mean, I just did a.
We've had tensions with Iran for forever.
I mean, we just did a world. We just did I just did yesterday a World Cup moment on West Germany. I mean, all those World Cups after West Germany, and they're taking on all the European powers. I mean, all those nations around Germany at the time were all hit from Germany. So, like 1954, that was West Germany beating Hungary. Hungary was beaten by a lot, like they were by all the German propaganda before that. So that's happened.
Oh, I mean, there's right. Just like actively in the moment, though, is what I mean. Historically speaking, you're 100% correct. I mean, look at all the countries that came from what the old Soviet Union was. Like, they all have stories of like, it's what it was. But
and Iran has qualified for the last 3 World Cups. They qualified in 98, obviously. They qualified in 06. And then, if you include 2026, they've qualified for the last 4 then. But
they've been good. Yeah.
No, I just think that because who said it was the Iranian sports administrator or whatever, like minister, I should say. Don't even know what that means, but sports minister, whatever.
Maybe they just wanted to get that guy fired. Maybe that's what it was. They were sick of his ass, so they're like,
yeah, maybe
say
his
something.
Name was Ahmad Danyamali. He said last week that the team would not participate in the tournament. I think it's just all leverage at this point. Because you can't come out and say you're withdrawing from the World Cup and not notify anyone of importance and no group of people of importance. I think it's simply let's play our games in Mexico or Canada. But the issue FIFA could say is look, you're not our cash cow. You're not a France. You're not in England.
Yeah.
You're not a Spain. You're not a Brazil. You're not in Argentina. Like, let's give an example. If the U.S. was bombing Argentina, of all people, of all countries, which we wouldn't, just based on history.
Great country. Great seafood.
They would.
Beautiful
and
scenery.
Argentina was like, hey, we're not playing our games in the United States unless it's the final. If we get there, we're playing all of our games in Mexico. You bet your ass, FIFA, in a heartbeat. Oh, we got to keep Messi in. Let's put all of his games in Argentina or in Mexico or Canada.
Yeah,
that's what we got to do. And I don't want to that's kind of effed up to say, but like
morbid to think.
There's certain teams, in every league, like Think of Michigan in the Big Ten, Ohio State in the Big Ten. You think of Alabama in the
Yep.
SEC. Like, there are certain teams, any team LeBron's on in the NBA, there's certain teams and certain individual players that will get the benefit of the doubt, and that league will go an extra mile to make sure they're happy and they're making sure that everything goes smoothly for them compared to others. That's just how it is, because certain teams bring certain level of eyeballs and certain level of advertising money and all that fun stuff to their games. So FIFA could very well just be like, dude, you're going to cause all this extra stuff because you don't want to play. That's not happening. And Iran might sit there and be like, well, then we're not playing. Like, that's like, it's a whole sticky situation. But I just think that FIFA can easily turn
you're
around
right.
and say this ain't happening.
Yep, and I can, and that's, well, so that was the part, right? You talk about logistical concerns. Does that weigh on FIFA too much? Do they think about it in the way of, dude, you're throwing this entire operation off? We get that what you're going through right now is pretty messed up. We also understand that your players want to play. However, what you're asking for, what do we get out of this by rearranging all of this and making teams go to different spots because of you? And I imagine this isn't just like, okay, you switch a few games around. If you make this decision, and I know you said a lot of their games, could easily be played outside of the US, but this would branch off into other things. It would change other things. It would have an effect. I wouldn't say a domino effect, like it would rip down the whole thing, but it would have residual. It would have other things happen around it.
But you think maybe there's another country where it's like, I don't want to travel, to multiple countries to play my group stage games. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Can I just play my games in one country? Like, not. Yeah. And there's certain countries that
not everybody wants to do that too.
Like,
Team USA is like, can we just play here?
Obviously, there's more countries that are like, well, obviously don't like the United States. I mean, everyone hates the United States, to be honest with you. But like, maybe not for that purpose, but it's like, well, I don't want to travel to California, then to Florida, then Texas. Like, I want to just stay in one spot. So like,
I did want to clarify one thing for our audience, because I know we got to go to break and we got to get into everything else we want to talk about here in hour number 1. But one of the things I wanted to mention, because someone brought this up in the comment section, we were talking about this the first time around. He's like, football has always been political, and I completely understand.
The game itself is political. The way it's run
I agree.
is political.
I would even stretch that out to say, if you are national teams playing in any sport, it's political. It's always political, because sports is the one way that governments. Yeah, absolutely. I would say it was. U.S. and Canada. Yeah. I would say it was. It's
Especially
the one way
Russia.
Governments can. I just feel bad for the Russian players, man. I mean, I feel like there might have been a gold out there for them this year. But anyways, and it's funny because you hear Kachuk and you hear those guys talk about how, thank God they weren't playing.
Because the goaltenders.
Yeah, unbelievable. But this is the one way governments can establish their dominance and their superiority and show that they're better than you without actually ever having to fire a shot. And that's why sports at the international level has always been so important. So I wasn't saying that the World Cup isn't political. I'm not saying sports isn't political. I get it's interwoven into what sports is. My whole point is I don't like when political games get in the way of athletes having the opportunity to play.
Fair.
That's what I was trying to say. And so